to the channel. Today we have an interesting one. How far would Saitama get in Dragon Ball realistically? Across the anime universe, Goku is regarded as the strongest, the most powerful. Krillin, one of the weakest characters in the DBZ universe, is a planet buster. You compare that to most animes across the board, DBZ is definitely the strongest universe. Until One Punch Man came on the scene. Our dog Saitama, as far as we can tell, has yet to meet his match. So this is a very interesting theory video that I want to definitely watch. So
Goku versus Saitama is an absolute wash. I don't think I need to prove this to anyone with a functioning brain. However, he still has a place somewhere on the totem pole. So where exactly would he land?
Wait, is he just outright saying that it wouldn't even be a battle? Is that what I'm hearing?
You've seen these kind of videos before. I don't need to explain anything beyond that.
That's hard.
Well, it is right, apparently. I don't know how. I don't know why people are subscribing, but thank you.
Shout out to you, bro. Alright, get to the video.
Anyway, back to the video.
Thank you.
While Saitama is incredibly impressive in verse, if you put him in the world of Dragon Ball, a lot of his Season 1 feats don't get him past the Red Ribbon Army. Saitama remains a Tao Pai Pai victim until his fight against the dominator of the universe, Lord Boros. On the low end, his most powerful attack, the Collapsing Star Roaring Cannon, still doesn't get past Multi-Continental, with Lord Boros in the manga saying that the attack would completely destroy the surface of the planet, which is a less impressive feat than Master Roshi one-shotting the moon.
This is actually pretty insane now that you compare it. That is true. Master Roshi was blowing up planets, bro.
During the 21st Tenkaichi. However, the anime more so implies that it'll destroy the Earth entirely, which is also backed up by the One Punch Man encyclopedia. This would easily get Lord Boros and Saitama by extension up to planetary levels, with Saitama being potentially large planetary level, if you wanted to be a little generous. You could even potentially get this to star level if you wanted to purposefully misinterpret some things, such as the name of the attack. That would be a naming fallacy, but you know, you do you. There's also the One Punch Man Blu-ray guide, which says that Lord Boros' attack is strong enough to obliterate a star, which is a pretty big mistranslation, as the kanji used, the Hoshi, can just refer to a celestial body, which would likely be referring to Earth in this case. Even stranger is how pretty much on the same entry it says that Lord Boros has enough latent energy to destroy planets, so that's more evidence for the planetary argument. However, even the energy required to obliterate a planet the size of Earth would only get Lord Boros to large planetary at best. In terms of speed, Saitama's jump from the moon back to the planet is roughly calced at 6% the speed of light. However, this is likely a very casual feat from Saitama, as Lord Boros was able to hit him to the moon at roughly 40-50% the speed of light, which would put Lord Boros at relativistic and Saitama at relativistic to relativistic plus, depending on how you want to do it. So currently,
alright my nigga, you starting to speak a different language.
We have a Saitama that scales anywhere from multi-continental to large planetary, and anywhere from relativistic to relativistic plus. Let's stop here for a moment and take a look at what this would scale to in terms of Dragon Ball. While the term planetary might make you think that Saitama scales to the Saiyan saga at the very least, you'd actually be surprised at how strong characters from OG Dragon Ball are. Realistically, I think Saitama caps off anywhere from the Demon King Piccolo saga all the way to the Saiyan saga, depending on how you want to scale him. While he was extremely casual during his fight with Lord Boros, he is unquantifiably stronger, and there's no evidence to really move him up a tier. So I think my general placement for him is accurate, at least based off of these feats, and I'll explain why. According to El Manga Legendario, you need a power level of 10,000 to destroy a planet. However, based on King Vegeta being able to no-diff multiple planets in the anime, this statement's at least a little misleading. When you take into account how King Cold called Earth a very small planet, it's possible that this statement from El Manga is actually referring to very large planets. This is all relevant because on the low end, I think Saitama would have a pretty good match against Demon King Piccolo. Really quick, I do want to disprove one statement from the Daizenshu, which compares King Piccolo's power to that of a small nuke, which is incredibly inconsistent even if you want to take Master Roshi's moon-busting feat out of the equation. Even at a low ball, King Piccolo is heavily implied to be able to no-diff massive chunks of the Earth instantaneously, which we'll talk about in a minute. If you wanted this statement to make any sort of sense, it's potentially referring to this panel and this panel exclusively, where he's able to no-diff an entire city. Moving on to his actual scaling, if you wanted to discount Master Roshi's moon-busting feat feat as an outlier, he still has enough evidence to solidly put him at multi-continental, and this is at a massive lowball. When he takes over the world, Demon King Piccolo makes an announcement to everyone saying that every year he will destroy 1/43 of the entire planet using his Demon Ray of Obliteration, with the manga even using phrases like instantaneously or in the blink of an eye, depending on your translation. With that sort of power, if he put all of his energy behind one massive attack, he could potentially completely destroy the surface of the earth, much like the lower ends of Lord Boros and Saitama's scaling. If you do count Master Roshi's moon-busting feat, then King Piccolo would easily scale above that and would be moon level plus, large moon level, however you want to calc it. However, based off of some of his statements, it's possible that he is at a highball planetary level. Remember, it takes a power level of 10,000 to destroy large planets, and Earth is considered very small, so a power level of 260 like King Piccolo has might actually be able to do it, which might be backed up by highballed interpretations of Master Roshi's moon-busting feat, as the energy required to bust the moon that quickly and that violently would get into those small planetary ranges. Now, while a small planetary level Piccolo wouldn't be able to keep up with a large planetary level Saitama, in terms of speed, it's actually a much different debate. Like we discussed earlier, Saitama clocks in at around relativistic to relativistic plus. King Piccolo, on the other hand, has legit faster than light speed scaling. King Piccolo is multiple times stronger and faster than Goku was during the 22nd Tenkaichi, where he was able to move faster than the solar flare technique, an attack that literally uses light. With that said, however, Saitama's more than likely going to be able to clear King Piccolo. Both of their low ends are at multi-continental, and King Piccolo would be faster, meaning that King Piccolo would likely win in a fight like that. However, when you get to their mid and higher ends, it becomes a completely different fight.
The thing about Saitama, though, which it just crossed my mind, I don't want anybody to grill me in the comments for saying this, but I feel in the nature of how Saitama was written and just One Punch Man in general as an anime, there's like this comedic feel to it, which almost I feel like any anime or cartoon character that kind of has that comedic element, it almost makes me feel like they have some Toonverse energy. You know what I'm saying? Like where it's kind of like anything goes. But hey, this is me just speculating. I'm gonna let the professional power scalers continue to do their thing, man.
With King Piccolo gradually lagging behind Saitama, with really only speed as his one real advantage, whereas Saitama would only need to get one hit in to end the fight. Still though, if you think Saitama only clocks in at multi-continental during the Lord Boros fight, then this is where he would stop against King Piccolo. Another potential stopping point for Saitama would be Goku during the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai and potentially Piccolo Jr. All of the scaling we just did for King Piccolo would apply to these two characters except multiple times over, as Piccolo Jr. even says that his power has multiplied several times over since the last time he fought Goku, referring to when he was Demon King Piccolo. This isn't even Piccolo amping himself up, as it's shown very clearly that Goku is stronger than Kami, and Kami was able to no-diff the previous version of Goku during the King Piccolo arc. However, this becomes even more concretely planetary based on statements from Daizenshu and El Manga Legendario. The Daizenshu specifically describes Goku's Super Kamehameha as an attack that can shatter the moon. The energy required to, quote, shatter the moon would potentially push Goku to that small planetary level. This is even crazier when you take into account El Manga Legendario, which just straight up says that Goku's Super Kamehameha can bust planets. You might initially think that no one would scale to this attack, as it's stated to have a power level of 910 in V-Jump, which is higher than Goku and Piccolo in the Raditz saga. However, Piccolo is actually able to tank the attack without taking any noticeable damage, and Goku's able to fire the attack without any noticeable stamina drain. The fact that Goku can fire off an attack that could potentially shatter planets without any noticeable stamina drain implies that he can fire a much stronger attack if he just put more energy behind it. In terms of speed, it would be similar to the King Piccolo situation where Goku would be much faster, except multiplied several fold. For my money,
bro, the OG choreography in Dragon Ball Z was unmatched.
Me personally, this is a decent stopping off point for Saitama, as Goku's able to match his mid ends with some decent mid to high ends, and is generally much faster and much more experienced with multiple techniques that would throw Saitama off his game. The absolute furthest I see Saitama getting is Saiyan Saga Vegeta. In the anime, Vegeta is able to easily no-diff a planet and its moon, with some calcs even putting this at star level. On top of that, even downplayed, he is much faster, as he would scale multiple times above Piccolo casually destroying the moon, which is calced at about relativistic. Even a low-balled Vegeta would still be planetary with faster than light speed scaling, which is able to match the mid-ends for Saitama and completely decimate Saitama's lower ends. Even comparing their higher ends, Saitama would be large planet level, going up against a dwarf star level Vegeta, not to mention the sheer speed difference between the two of them. Despite his competition being incredibly stiff, Saitama actually did better than most other anime would, and he's only on episode 12 of his anime, or chapter 36 of his manga. Relatively speaking, that's incredibly impressive, as multiple shows like Jujutsu Kaisen and My Hero Academia will go their entire run without reaching these sorts of levels. The best part for Saitama is that we haven't even gotten to the best feats for this character, as later in the manga, he fights against one of the most powerful opponents in anime, full stop.
We interrupt this program to bring you...
Have you ever wanted to give me money?
Is this a brand
sorry,
deal?
1 second. Really now?
Oh, okay.
Okay, now back to the
shout
show.
out to
Later
you,
on
bro.
in the One Punch Man manga, a character called Garo assumes the power of God and enters a state known as Cosmic Fear Mode. Not only does he have one of the rawest designs in anime history, in my opinion, but he's also incredibly
Bro,
powerful.
look like a Alien X. That looks like a knockoff Alien X in my opinion.
The first opponent in the series to give Saitama an actual fight. The fight between them is actually so incredibly violent that the #1 hero Blast, along with multiple other characters, need to teleport the energy away from Earth, otherwise it will shatter. The result of which is a massive amount of stars blinking out of existence due to the sheer energy Garo and Saitama create with simple punches. With this feat scaling anywhere from
Hold up, this sounds like some Dragon Ball Z shit.
solar system level to potentially even galaxy level. Some will argue that these stars in the background are actually supposed to be galaxies, however we see galaxies drawn very visually on Cosmic Garo's design. So if these were meant to be galaxies, they'd probably look a little similar to that, even if they were simplified. Shortly after this, Saitama and Garo find themselves on one of Jupiter's moons, where Garo attempts to use his hyperspace gates to get an upper hand on Saitama. Saitama, however, is able to easily kick away and interact with these hyperspace gates. For those that don't know, a hyperspace in mathematics is defined as a space with more than 3 dimensions, however it's usually delegated to a 4th dimensional area. Anything above that would likely be called a superspace or an extra dimensional area. To be fair, the term hyperspace is often thrown around a lot in fiction, even in major franchises like Star Wars, but that doesn't mean that like Darth Vader is above time or anything. However, based on information revealed later in the One Punch Man manga, I am actually inclined to believe that these are supposed to be literal hyperspaces. Another character imbued with the power of God, known as Empty Void, is able to interact with the 3D multiverse in an area that is called a hyperspace in the One Punch Man manga. God is also referred to as a higher dimensional entity multiple times in the manga, and a tesseract is even visually shown on panel, which is the most common representation of a 4D area. Considering Garo got this power from God, it's not impossible to imagine Garo as a 4th dimensional being. All of this is to say that the idea of
This is hella spoilers for One Punch Man because I didn't know none of this. I've only watched the One Punch Man anime, and it's like I wanted to read the manga, but again, I feel like because of the comedic elements, the anime just did it a little bit more justice for me personally.
Universal plus Saitama and Cosmic Fear Garo isn't impossible, and I'd say it's even likely. However, if you don't think these are meant to be literal hyperspace gates, then I'll include a
We need the
section
anime
here
to
about
come
where
back,
he
though.
would scale if you ignore this feat. In terms of speed, Saitama was able to blitz Garo so hard that not even his hyperspace gates could keep up with him. With this panel alone, Saitama has been calculated to be moving anywhere from thousands of times the speed of light to potentially billions of times the speed of light, depending on how you want to do your calculations. Still, either way, this is a massive upgrade from his relativistic to relativistic plus calcs from the Lord Boros fight. The crazy thing is, though, that all of this takes place before Saitama begins to visually grow, with a literal graph being drawn to show how much stronger Saitama is getting compared to Garo. Cosmic Fear Garo is a character that can copy the abilities of other characters, meaning that he should have copied Saitama's growth ability, meaning Saitama surpassed himself and surpassed his ability to grow during their fight. The craziest feat of all from this fight, though, is when Saitama is able to perform an immeasurable speed punch, literally going back in time and beating Goro before the fight between them.
See, and that's where it's like, this nigga's starting to use some Toon Force type shit, bruh. I think people might be sleep on Saitama. I think they're trying to put math on it, but this nigga got Toon Force, bruh.
Even began, beating him in what the manga literally describes as 0 punches, which is the definition of immeasurable speed, or being able to move so quickly that you're able to go backwards in time through sheer speed alone. Now, I would personally argue this is closer to a move Saitama can use and not necessarily his actual speed. Similar to how Hit is able to skip through time, that doesn't mean that Hit would automatically have immeasurable speed. However, it's still a very impressive feat regardless, and an incredible ability for Saitama to have in his back pocket in case he ever needs it. Though you could argue that Saitama using it would be out of character, as Goro really had to push him to use it. For a brief recap, we have a Saitama that scales anywhere from multi-solar system level to universal plus, and anywhere from thousands of times the speed of light to potentially immeasurable speed. With all of that taken into account, where would he scale in terms of Dragon Ball? Scaling Saitama for the rest of this video is going to be a little confusing, as there are so many different metas that you can use for Dragon Ball characters that it becomes a little hard to keep track of everything. However, I'll try to keep this in a chronological order sort of sense, going from the lowest ends for the Dragon Ball characters to the highest ends. Depending on how you scale him, Saitama would cap off anywhere from the Frieza saga of Dragon Ball Z all the way to the Buu saga, and he might actually clear all of Dragon Ball Z depending on how you want to interpret some things. On the absolute lowest end for the Dragon Ball characters, I believe that Saitama would have a pretty good fight against Super Saiyan Goku on Namek. The destruction of planet Namek in the anime has been calced to solar system level due to how violently it was destroyed, with a massive supernova-esque explosion spreading throughout the universe. And that was done by a heavily damaged Frieza who wasn't even at his 100%, and Super Saiyan Goku would scale above that due to power levels. However, I'd say that's actually very contentious, as even at a low ball, Saitama's feat against Goro is far more impressive, and that's Saitama at the start of the fight, and he grows exponentially during the battle.
I feel like at the beginning of this video, he just said that he had no chance. Now he talking like they on even playing field.
However, if you wanted to downplay Saitama to the utmost extreme, then Super Saiyan Goku would be likely where he stops. As for the higher ends of the Frieza saga, there are multiple statements in the anime and anime-related guides saying that Frieza has enough power to destroy the universe. Considering how the Dragon Ball universe is repeatedly referred to as infinite in size, that would give Frieza and anyone who scales above him high universal attack potency. However, that really wouldn't mean anything, as Universal Plus is well above High Universal in terms of scaling. Essentially, unless you want to absolutely downplay Saitama to the utmost extreme, he would probably, more than likely, in my opinion, clear the Namek saga. If you believe that the clash between Saitama and Goro is a galaxy level, or potentially even multi-galaxy level attack, then we would move on to the Cell saga, and more specifically Super Perfect Cell, as there's a lot of evidence suggesting that he was stronger than even Super Saiyan 2 Gohan upon his return to Earth. If you believe that Cell is only solar system level based on statements from the manga and pretty much any other guidebook out there, then he would lose to even Saitama's low ends of multi-solar system level. However, there are statements from the Daizenshuu guidebooks that say that a solar system is closer to a galaxy in the world of Dragon Ball, as it contains an uncountable amount of stars. However, even if you take that into account, I would still say Saitama is stronger. It's when you get to Cell's high ends that things become a little more interesting. In the anime continuity specifically, Cell has multiple universal, or at least potential universal feats. When Cell finally goes all out against Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, Piccolo comments that it's as if the entire universe is shaking, which would be a multi-galaxy level feat. This would match even Saitama's high ends for his fight against Cosmic Fear Garo, however that still wouldn't match up to the Universal Plus metas I proposed. And it wouldn't be taking into account the fact that Saitama grows during his fight with Cosmic Fear Garo. Even if you do think that Cell has infinite power based on the title card of the episode, which is literally called Battle Power Infinity, and other statements from the narrator and Cell himself, that would only put Cell at high universal with no real way to scale him further. If you do believe that Saitama is Universal Plus, then his most realistic matches come from deep within the Buu saga, specifically 4 opponents that I think would be a relatively realistic match for him. Those 4 would be Buuhan, Kid Buu, Vegito, and Super Saiyan 3 Goku, depending on how far you think Saitama is into Universal Plus. First of all, Buuhan. Buuhan is an incredibly powerful character, the result of Super Buu absorbing Piccolo, Gotenks, and Gohan, who had just received a massive power-up that made him stronger than Super Saiyan 3 Goku. During his fight with Vegito, Buuhan actually becomes...
I didn't know that.
So incredibly enraged that he threatens to destroy the entire universe by slamming alternate dimensions into it. It's heavily contested what's going on here, as some people think that he's just using a hack's ability to do this. However, guidebooks actually state directly that Buhan is using his own power to do this, by using a technique that is very similar to the Vice Shout, which is what Super Buu used to escape the hyperbolic time chamber. This would count as a universal plus feat because not only is Buhan going to destroy the living universe, which is infinite in size, already making this high universal, but he's affecting alternate dimensions as well, as is repeated multiple times.
I might need to go rewatch this battle. I don't even remember this part.
By both Vegito and the guidebooks. And for anyone still confused on whether or not Buhan is using a hack's ability, Vegito tells him directly to use the same power that he used to threaten the universe to hit him, meaning that even Buhan's strikes would count as universal plus. Buhan is also likely nerfed here because he's just sort of throwing a temper tantrum instead of actually using his ki wisely. Buhan can even grow stronger throughout fights the same way Saitama can, though arguably to a lesser extent. As in guidebooks, it's stated that Vegito doesn't need to go Super Saiyan to take on Buhan, and then the narrator a couple episodes later will say that Vegito and Buhan are equally matched. Buhan can also regenerate to an endless extent, has a seemingly endless amount of ki, can just turn Saitama into chocolate anytime he wants. This is more than likely realistically where he stops, although you could argue that Saitama could simply outpace Buhan's growth with his own, as he is shown to do, and if Vegito could keep his consciousness as a piece of candy, then Saitama could potentially do the same thing, but I'll let you debate that in the comments. If you do think that Saitama gets past Buhan, then the next candidates up would be Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Kid.
Y'all definitely put that in the comments what you think.
Kid Buu. This really only comes down to whether or not you think Kid Buu is the strongest Buu, as is repeated multiple times in the anime and guidebooks, and then...
Well, I thought that for the longest time that Kid Buu was the strongest Buu, but this new Dragon Ball Z series, or not Dragon Ball Z's, Dragon Ball Daima, right? Daima, am I saying it wrong or right? Please don't cook me in the comments, but you guys know what I'm talking about. It seemed to like canonize the fact that Super Buu was actually the strongest Buu. Am I tripping? Am I just got this whole thing fucked up, bro? I swore I thought Kid Buu was the strongest Buu, but supposedly it's Super Buu is truly the true form of Buu.
You just apply everything I said about Buhan, but apply that to Kid Buu. However, I'd argue that Kid Buu is actually more of a threat because while Buhan has at least in intellect, he has consciousness, Kid Buu is basically a feral animal. And
I think that's probably why Kid Buu he came off stronger, because he's just so much more animalistic with how he battles. But essentially, word on the street is, I don't know, Super Buu is actually the one.
Likely wouldn't be as frustrated as Buhan would get. Super Saiyan 3 Goku would be similar in power, however he doesn't have any of the advantages that either of the Buus have, so I would put him lower on the list actually. And while you could debate Buhan, Kid Buu, and Super Saiyan 3 Goku all you wanted, I see no way for Saitama to get past Vegito. Especially Super Vegito, who was able to bully Buhan even after Buhan was coached into becoming stronger by Vegito. That's something that a lot of people don't actually remember, but Vegito actually has to teach Buhan mid-fight how to properly use his ki, making Buhan stronger, and then Vegito just schools him anyway. Vegito is also referred to as the perfect fighter multiple times, and is smarter than both Goku and Vegeta. So even if you wanted to cope with the immeasurable speed punch, Vegito would likely get hit once, and then start to predict where Saitama was coming from, similar to how Goku did in the Universe 6 tournament. For my money, even given his most realistic high ends, Saitama isn't getting past Vegito. Vegito is just far too intelligent and far too powerful for Saitama to really have a realistic chance. Really quick, I want to talk about Empty Void and Saitama's most recent feats in the manga, as they don't really upscale him, they just put him more comfortably in Universal Plus, which is what I was already proposing. I don't think this changes the outcome of the video either, as Vegito would be higher into Universal Plus, in my honest opinion. In conclusion, my head hurts and I want to go to bed. We are ready!
Is that the end of the video? Y'all let me know what you think, man. I ain't gonna lie, I think they got my nigga Saitama fucked up. I think there's a strong debate that the debate should end that Saitama is Toon Force, bro. That's what I'm going with. Y'all let me know in the comment section. Am I cooked, chat? Am I tripping for that opinion?
Where you at, Berto?